So let's welcome him on the stage.
Can you hear me? Cool. Amazing speakers, that's going to be an interesting one. Hi. A little bit about myself, I guess, just how I got here. Yeah, how I got here. My path was somewhat unconventional. I actually didn't want to be an artist, never thought I would be an artist, and so after school I actually entered Tallinn Technical University to study power engineering and technology, and electronics, because that was the closest thing to art that they had. And a couple of years later I dropped out because I realized, well, it's not something that I enjoy doing. And so my first gig was a freelance gig, and it was in 2008, and it was from the US, and they just asked me to do a bunch of characters. And if you want to, take something away from my speech, is this thing. The first time I got paid for my job was by a personal computer. So they shipped the computer from the United States so I can actually work instead of my crappy laptop. So ask for money, don't ask for hardware. After that, I got noticed by a local guy, Fox 3D, and I was working for him, for the company, for a couple of years, doing freelance. And after that, I realized that I was kind of concentrating on advertisement and film, and so instead I wanted to do video games. And so I went to Italy. I lived there in Rome for a year, and my goal was to learn video game art, and that's what I did there for 1 year. I taught myself everything I could, and then things started to change quite a bit. I got discovered by Platic, flew there. That was my first company gig. For 2 months I was working at Platic, and then there were just a few advertisement companies, and then I went to Starbreeze in Sweden. After that I went to Ninja Theory, and now I'm back in Estonia, where I work for Fox 3D Entertainment as a freelancer. So it's kind of a full circle. So this is where I am. So my talk is going to be a little bit different, I guess. I think it's really important to understand who you are and what you want and how you look at this thing, the industry or the work that you're going to do. Is it something that gives you fulfillment, or is it some kind of means to some other ends that you have? And I think this is something that is quite important, that you understand yourself in different contexts. You understand yourself, how you deal with your emotions and your stress and all of those things, because things can get a little bit tricky when you work at a company or as a freelancer, and you might not like some things, you might not even handle some things. So it's really important that you know how to deal with that. And there's this one little question that you can ask yourself. If it was up to you, when you're honest about it, would you hire yourself? And I'm not trying to be harsh or anything, but it's just this idea about hard skills and soft skills. And the hard skills are the ones that you develop by yourself, basically. It's your portfolio, it's your CV, it's your cover letter, how well you put it together, and all of that. And it's amazing. It's something that gets you noticed. But soft skills, I think, in the end, they're actually more important. And interesting stories that at Platic, I met a guy who was from Bosnia, and during lunch everybody was staying in the office, and me and this guy, we were just walking, went to get some lunch outside, and so we became friends. And when I was applying for, it wasn't in a Ninja, I was actually applying for Rocksteady games in London. They flew me over for an interview, and I went there, I did the interview, I flew back to Sweden, and they came back to me saying that everybody liked your stuff, they like you, blah blah blah, but they chose a different person who had better experience in this field. And as it turns out, it was the same guy that I met in Platic. He actually got the job, not me. But the guy sent my portfolio and my resume to a guy who works with Ninja. And they contacted me and said, you know, would you like to work with us? And I went through the interview, 5 people during the interview, and the same day I got hired. So it's kind of, you know, it's kind of interesting the way it works, that connections that you make actually can land you a job, not your portfolio, not your CV, not your cover letter. So it's really important that you, well, basically you just connect. Like this kind of stuff. It's amazing. It's really useful. So there's this little thing that about, you know, do you know yourself or not? It's from Seth Godin. It's if you Google the world's worst boss, it's quite an interesting post. The world's worst boss, that would be you. Even if you're not self-employed, your boss is you. You manage your career, your day, your responses. You manage how you sell your services and education and the way you talk to yourself. Odds are you're doing it poorly. If you had a manager that talked to you the way you talk to yourself, you'd quit. If you had a boss that wasted as much of your time as you do, you'd fire her. If an organization developed its employees as poorly as you are developing yourself, it would soon go under. It's harsh. It's really harsh, but it actually matters a lot. So, some kind of observations, whether you are freelancer or studio, be a professional, just in life in general, be a professional. Those things, you know, people somehow, I don't know, think that if you're a freelancer, you have all the time in the world, you can do whatever you want, you can have your schedule, you can work during the night. And it's quite an illusion, because as a freelancer you might be working with clients from abroad, you might be working with somebody you're managing and they're a completely different place altogether. If they're working during the night and you're working normal hours in mornings, it's going to be quite a tricky situation. So studio has this kind of setup where you have to go there, you have to set up your day that you kind of wake up, you put 8 hours into your job and then you go back. And freelance has to be the same way. You wake up, you do your stuff, and then you just leave, and that's it. You just commit. You be professional. You have to do this thing. Otherwise, you're gonna end up with chaos. My first experience as a freelancer, I was working during the night, and then during the day I was just sleeping. So at 12 at night, I would go for a jog, or I would go for cycling, and it was just a chaos. It's just a nightmare. It just kind of destroys you. So you have to be very, very professional about this stuff and very disciplined. That's very important. Discipline is actually the thing that gives you the freedom that you might want from freelance. It's not the time that you think you have. It's actually discipline. So if you put 8 hours a day, your whole evening is just free. It's for you to use, and it's amazing. Well, this is something that I started with, is that you have to understand, you have to know why you do this in the first place. Is this something that you want to pursue for your, basically your fulfillment? Is the studio job is something that you want to freelance? Or is it something that you might think as some kind of thing on your path towards something else? And it's important because if you don't understand why you do this thing, you might end up waking up in the morning and going to the office and hating what you do, because you just kind of don't want to do it. And if you don't have any idea why you do it in the first place, you're just going to be miserable there. And if you're going to be miserable there, people are going to be miserable around you, and you're not going to be doing your work that you should be doing. So it's really important to understand why you choose this thing and why you want from it in the first place. This is kind of a reality that might actually happen. And it's very common, especially if you're doing freelance. If you start from, let's say, from a studio job and you move on to freelance, so that you feel it's going to be amazing, then you just, there's no clients, there's nothing going on, or maybe there's just a really bad stuff that they give you because you don't get what you want all the time. So you might start questioning your path, and then you just end up in a really bad place where you question your choices altogether. So you have to prepare for those kind of things. And again, you have to understand how to get out of those things. And it's all about the way you deal with your emotions and stress. And it's really, really important. What else? Separate. The way I think about it is that I try to separate everything that I do from myself, it's not my personal thing. If it's freelance or if it's a studio job, even if I'm completely on board with the decisions that people make in the studio, I'm not attached to the results that I do. I'm not doing it for portfolio, I'm not doing it to prove myself something, to just impress anybody. I just do the job. I'm kind of, committed to that. I'm very professional about it. And yeah, in this way you can actually be, you don't resent the things that you do. You don't resent the decisions that people give you, the directions. And some people, they really kind of grab on to the things that they do. And when you try to communicate with them, especially if you are in a position where you have some people that you have to manage, it becomes personal. People all of a sudden become really defensive. And there's almost no way to kind of break through them, just to say, hey, we're just here to make this thing, and this is a better way to do this. And everybody, not everybody, but people tend to be really defensive because they take it personally. And it's something that, it's not a bad situation, basically. And I try to just, in general, I try to separate my job from the thing that I do love doing. So for example, if I wake up and there is a freelance gig and I don't like the gig, I don't care, because it's my job, and I just commit and I do the thing, and then in my free time I do the thing that I actually love. So to me, the thing that I do professionally is just a job, and that's it. And my free time is the thing that I love, and there's nobody for me to dictate how I should do it, when is the deadline, and all of those things. I choose to put those things myself. Do you know how to negotiate? That's a good one. It's something that you will have to deal with everywhere. And it's the thing about negotiation, it's not compromising, because compromising is something that you always lose, you just always sacrifice something. Negotiating, it's a kind of skill that lets you get what you want, and at the same time you're addressing the needs of the other party, of the other person. So if, for example, if you're negotiating for a raise in a studio, if you're not really good at it, you might get advantage of. Basically, they will give you a certain amount, and you're gonna say, okay, sure, whatever. If you're terrible at this thing, you might become quite arrogant, and I know those examples where people just kind of demand the raise, and they have nothing to back up. They have no arguments whatsoever, and so you put yourself in a really bad situation if you're that arrogant. Freelance is the same thing. Clients will ask you, this is how much we're going to pay you, and you have to value your time. You have to understand how much you want to get from that, and you can't demand, because the client will always find somebody who's cheaper. So you have to negotiate. You have to actually put yourself in such a light that your client will be more eager to get you instead of the other person. And the thing here, again, it's not just about your hard skills, it's about the soft skills. You present yourself as somebody who's useful, who can actually deliver something beyond what they ask. You commit, you deliver everything on time. You don't just promise things and then you just disappear. You stay consistent all the time, and you have to be. And so that's how you negotiate, and that's how you get things that you want. It's by not demanding. This one. In a studio job, it's really good thing that you enter the room, and the people there have your interest, kind of the same interest. Basically, you connect immediately. They all share the same interest: video games, film, art in general, music, some of those things. And it's great. You kind of, you make friends and all of that. But I find that it's a little bit of a trap, because life is quite a broad thing. It's quite a broad experience. It's a phenomenon that goes beyond the things that you know. And so I think it's really important that everybody's spread yourself a little bit and, meet people who do other things other than art. And it's something, it's just useful, just practical things, because I know that there's quite a few people who do art and they live this kind of romantic idea of being an artist, is that, you're just artist, you're emotional and you like drama and all those things. And it's fun, it's quite addicting actually to live this kind of illusion, but it is an illusion because practical things actually matter a lot. And so if something happens, you need to be able to rely on yourself, and you have to just develop yourself outside art. A lonely place is an unmotivated place. That's a harsh one. It's not about going out. Definitely go out. Definitely go out. But it's the kind of thing that, especially if you're a freelancer, you have to surround yourself with people like as soon as possible. My experience was two months with pretty much no contact with people. That was just a nightmare. It's just insane. You absolutely have to connect with other people. It's a matter of, again, your health. You just the way you're gonna spend your day. And I find that connecting is like the best connections is when you problem solving, or conquering some kind of challenges, or just some kind of obstacles, whatever they might be, or just growing together. And so it doesn't have to be again art. It doesn't have to be your job. It could be anything. For me, for example, I'm a freelancer, so I stay at home and I don't have any pets, so I basically by myself, and I still have friends, of course. But I started doing boxing, and it's amazing. I don't know anybody there. Like, I barely know the people's name, but we are there just to kind of grow and be better at this thing that we're doing, and we just, we physically pushing ourselves, and we're there together, and the feeling is just amazing. You go out, after the exercise, and you're just like, wow, this is just amazing. So please connect. Prepared, not ready. This one is quite fun. When you wake up in the morning, Pooh, said Piglet at last, what's the first thing that you say to yourself? What's for breakfast? Said Pooh. What do you say, Piglet? I say, I wonder what's going to happen exciting today, said Piglet. Pooh nodded thoughtfully. It's the same thing, he said. I think the idea of ready is quite it could be a dangerous one, because if you think that somewhere along your way you're going to be ready for something, that's basically either fear talking to you, or it's some kind of excuse, because ready implies that there is some kind of thing behind it that you can actually develop and get better. And you can always get better at something, always. You can always go beyond, like, more. And when is this ready? You're not going to be ready for, you're never going to be ready. So it's better to be prepared, in a sense that, again, you just develop yourself and you put yourself in different situations and you kind of grow, and you have your portfolio ready, you have things ready, you have your day ready, you have discipline, you have, you can, if something happens, an opportunity happens, for example, a client just, shows up and gives you a project, you don't want to end up in a situation where your day is just completely so locked off that you can't even move anywhere. So you have to be disciplined, you have to be prepared for those opportunities. So it's really, I think, really important to just think about it, and it's not in a sense that you are ready for something, but you're prepared for anything. Speaking of opportunities, this whole thing about the monkey, you know how to catch a monkey. You put some things into the jar, like a banana, and the monkey grabs the banana and it just clings to the banana, and so the person comes over and he tries to get it, and monkey doesn't want to let go. It just holds the banana, and so the monkey stays in the place, just holds the thing because it doesn't know what to do. It just holds it. And so it happens the same way with people, with things that we tell ourselves. The story that I'm not good enough and I'm not going to be good for this company, I'm not ready for this client, and all of those things. Those are just some kind of beliefs that we have that we need to let go. And the same way, we need to let go sometimes of our jobs, of our things that we do. For example, if you rely on one client, it means that you lock yourself in a situation that you don't even allow the possibility of another client coming in. You're just clinging to this so badly that you're so afraid of just letting go of this thing because you rely on this as your means of just surviving, basically. But you have to let go sometimes to get something from beyond. And it's a scary thing to do, obviously. You don't want to let go of your thing that's just in front of you and you think it's really important. And again, it's the same thing that happens inside of you. Some things you just have to absolutely let go in order to just, I don't know, be happy. Be happy and just enjoy what you do. And I'm kind of foggy after the flight, but I think that's it, actually. I think that's it, yeah. If you have any more practical questions about the actual industry and how to get there, definitely just go ahead and ask.
So what's the difference?
What's the difference? The difference is it's about you again. What do you want? What do you want from that? Do you want to be, just sit and work for 8 hours and you have a stability of finances and you wake up and you kind of feel good about the next day? Or do you want to be a little bit free and a little bit flexible? What does it mean to you? It's not possible to tell what it's about. Again, it's very personal. That's the thing. It's very personal. I can't give you anything. I just can give you scenarios what can happen and how to be prepared for those things. But at the end of the day, it's kind of up to you, studio or freelance. For example, for me, studio was, I knew that I wanted to be freelancer at the end of the day. So studio for me was a step to get into freelance. So I knew that I wanted to get some experience, learn, because you learn a lot when you work in a studio. But I wanted to do freelance after that. And so for me, studio was just a step. It's not something that I wanted to do in the first place.
Any more questions?
Thank you, sir.
I will bring the mic
Oh, really?
so that everyone can hear you.
Sure, thank you. So you sort of answered this question, but I still would ask. There's a common belief that, you should have started off probably with a studio job because you can develop some hard skills and soft skills in the beginning, and after you get some experience, you can get into freelance. So my question is it possible to get into freelance without starting off with a studio job?
Yeah, well, that's how I started, basically. But the thing about it, and something that I actually forgot to tell you, all my clients, my freelance clients, when I started in 2008, they were all my friends, every single one of them. There were people from Australia, from Brazil, from Europe. They were all my friends. And the way we connected back in the day, it was forums, but now Facebook can be the place, or ArtStation, those kind of things. So it gets you noticed. It's kind of crazy if I think about it. Every single job in this industry that I had, except for Plattage, was basically because I knew people. My portfolio probably helped, but it's different. It's connections. It's who you are.
Thank you.
Anything else? You said you work from home, right?
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I'm also a freelance worker, but in software development. One of the things that personally is probably one of the most challenging things for me is when you're working from home, you have this area that is your home, you should relax in it, but other times it's a place of work and you need to concentrate on it. And it's one of the most difficult things, at least I find, to be able to switch from one mode. It's usually
Sure.
either you can't relax or you can't concentrate, and
Sure.
it's kind of, do you have any techniques that you personally use to get over this challenge?
Yeah, you wake up and you do the thing. It's a choice. To me, it comes down to a choice. It's really that simple. You choose to just commit to this thing, right? 8 hours, I have to do this. No excuses, absolutely no excuses. There is no, I want to do this, I want to do that. You make your choice and you just commit and you force yourself. It's practice. It's a muscle. It's basically. So you have to just kind of grind through it. It's not easy, but there are no techniques. I know some people might recommend something, I don't know, meditate or just do some kind of ritual before you do these things. But to me, it's a choice. You choose either you're doing freelance and you're professional about it, or you just kind of doing it a little bit, this way. And I choose to be like all in. And that's it. If you make a choice, you have to stick with it.
Doesn't sound easy.
It's not. But it's simple.
Any more? Yeah, we have more questions.
Hi, you kind of already mentioned that working as a freelancer has inherent risks in in the financial aspect. So I wondered if maybe you could tell us a bit more about what to expect to get paid, what the ratios should be. Obviously, as a freelancer, you might not always have a job like 40 hours a week, but it's kind of common knowledge that freelance work is a bit more expensive or better paid since you're looking at people who are not working full time.
Yeah.
So if you talk about that.
It's from project to project, unfortunately, because if you have the clients from the United States and if you have clients, for example, from let's say Croatia, it's going to be quite a different thing. It's very tricky. I can't give you any numbers because it's very individual. One thing to keep in mind is that this kind of like a rule of thumb is that every time you get paid, you put 30% on savings, so you kind of can survive the next month. But that's the only advice about money I can give you. Otherwise, it's just you have to kind of negotiate a little bit, be a little bit not arrogant, but present yourself from a point of view that you can actually deliver and that you are professional. So you can say something and then they tell you like no. For example, it happened quite recently. I said this and they said, well, no. And I got back to them and said, I really want this. I didn't say I really want this thing. I kind of presented myself in a sense that I was really interested in the project. Genuinely, I was quite interested in the project, and I said, well, will you be willing to, give me the job if you pay this much? And they said, sure, okay. But I started from a point where I knew I can actually lower it just a little bit, just a little bit. And then it's negotiation. That's how you do it. And the same thing in a studio. They give you the number, but yeah, you either agree or you go a little bit, up.
Any more questions? Yes, we have one more.
Actually, I have two questions. Our first question is how did you left Ninja Theory? Was it your personal decision or was it like the decision of your team in general? And the second question is what and why would be your next studio?
Ninja Theory I left because of personal matters, and I left it on the condition that I can always get back. So it's an amazing company. It's by far the best company I worked at, and it's incredible. So I'm very lucky and grateful that I have this opportunity to get back. As for the next studio, I'm doing freelance. I made the choice to stick with freelance. I prefer this, and it's again just some personal matters why I chose this path, and I have to stick with it now. So that's it. It's kind of rotates the same thing. It's just about kind of who you are, and you just be like friendly. It was such a nice thing that when I left the company, one of the directors from Ninja, he just gave me a hug and said like, "Hey Alex, you're always welcome here." And the reason for that because we drank together quite a bit. No, but I mean, he's a good guy, just a really good guy.
Well, I guess that will be it. Let's go to the other speaker and let's thank Aleksandr.